I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to narrow, because narrow to me means less, means fewer, means that I'm limiting the potential, right? So as a brand owner, I don't want to narrow. I want to widen. I want to get as much as possible. And that is a valid fear.
Oh yes, this is the Hardcore Marketing Show. I'm Casey Cheshire, your host for this epic journey. Today's show is sponsored by Ringmaster, on a mission to launch B2B podcasts that create relationships, generate revenue, and drive growth. Ringmasterlive.com. Bam. All right, here we go. I'm excited. Okay, I just got to tell you guys, this is going to be a good one. I'm excited. Would I tell you if it's a bad one? I guess that's the question. But no, this is a good one. So, I mean, I'm prepared. I've got the pumpkin coffee. It fall's coming. I got the water, the electrolytes. I'm ready to go. So I'm prepared, and I hope you're prepared listening to this, because we're watching on YouTube. My guest today is an entrepreneur. She's a marketing leader, a thought leader, a branding strategist. Let me just tell you, an expert in the truest sense of the word, a speaker, a teacher, all around, really kind of a rule breaker. But then she also makes new rules and best practices after that. She's the one telling us where the path is, specializes in things like brand positioning and brand purpose. I love that. Like, I know the words, but not really the concept. So, but it feels like, I don't know if you hear that, brand purpose. It intuitively feels right. I can't wait to learn more. CEO and head wizard at the Clarity Wizard, Kathy Guzmán Galloway, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I can't say I've been on many podcasts where the host is as passionate as me about something. So this is going to have like fireworks and explosions, and it's going to be exciting.
Yes, right? Life's too short to have a boring podcast. Come on.
Absolutely.
Come on. So to start this thing, we're going to break some rules. So I need to pass you this thing. It's heavy for me, but I know you're a pro. Here you go.
Oh, boy.
Go ahead, grab that.
Okay, I got it.
You got it? Yeah, yep. There you go. Good. Okay, you got it?
I got it.
All right, take Thor's hammer, smash for me some kind of marketing myth, bogus strategy, misconception. Set the record straight once and for all.
Oh, one of the most painful myths is everybody is my customer. Everybody is my consumer. Everybody is my client. Oh, I can't tell you how much heartburn I have over this one. It really doesn't even matter the size of the business or the brand. But there is this misconception that a very big, wide audience is really what we need to succeed. And we want to try our very hardest not to bring that down, not to niche down. I feel like the word niche in and of itself is a scary word. And it is a terrible way to do brand positioning. That is literally the most difficult, the most painful decision that you can make on your business, on your brand, because course correcting it can be hard on the back end, but it gives you a false sense of security. I'm going to get as many people as possible. And when you start to activate against that, naturally you are going to get someone, right? Because you're spreading yourself wide and thin, and the net is wide. So of course you're going to get some people in, and you get a false sense of security from that. Wow, look at me. I'm doing it. I'm on the right path. But that momentum quickly falls apart, very quickly. And whatever long-term goal you have, and some idea that you're building a brand that has longevity and will connect to a consumer, a customer, a client, is just going to fall apart very quickly as other brands come in and do a much better job of targeting than you. So this myth has got to be busted. If you know Thor and could ask him to help us bust this, I would be up for that.
Heck yeah. You know, that hammer I passed you, that's the real one, you know?
Oh, good. Even better.
Yeah, he lent it to me for this episode. So I gotta tell you, I don't know when this episode comes out, but I almost feel like we need to put it out October 31st, because you're right. It is scary. And you know what? I'm not one of those people who hosts a podcast and goes, yeah, I got this thing all figured out. I do the same thing. I cast a wide net, and I guess my net has 2 compartments, but I know one of them is not the right compartment. I know it's not right, but it feels good to have those customers come in, even if they're a pain in the ass, because
It's better than nothing.
I don't know, it's better than being bored, yeah, or not catching anything.
And you're scared. You're scared that you're not gonna get them. And so you default to, well, let me just open the door to everyone. No, no.
Yeah, to the fish that fly into the boat, but those aren't tasty, right? Terrible sushi.
Well, there's only so many of them too, right? Like that you can only find so many of those. You got to get back into that ocean and find the right one. So
And there's, like, 1 bite, right? All that work, and you get, like, 1 bite, and you're like, "What?"
all of that work, double underline, all of that work, and just not getting as far as the potential that you and your brand and your business have. Absolutely.
Where does this come from, right? What's the origin story of this mythic monster? Why do we all fall into this trap of just casting that wide net, hoping they all just come in?
Yeah, there's actually two pieces to it. There's a macro and there's a micro. We'll start with the micro because everyone will resonate with it. We get it. We understand, and it's what we've just been talking about. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid to narrow, because narrow to me um means less, means fewer, means that I'm limiting the potentials. Right. So as a brand owner, I don't want to narrow. I want to widen. I want to get as much as possible. And that is a valid fear. And it's exactly the kind of fear and the kind of objective, and objective meaning the greatest growth potential possible, that a leader should have. So it's not that the fear and the feeling and the intention is wrong. It is 100% valid. It's what we do with that makes the difference. So on a micro level, it's a lot about fear and fear of loss of opportunity. On the macro level, it's a little bit of story time. And that story starts where traditional brand marketing, or I should say classic brand marketing, begins early in the 19th century, when brands like Coke were coming to be. And at that time, as the world started to get a little bit smaller through the printed word or through radio, where brands could start now reaching consumers all around the country, if not globally, there was not really a need to niche, because there was only one Coca-Cola. Shortly after, there's a Pepsi, and there's just two of us. So yeah, everybody is my audience. It's not until the world starts to evolve quickly into competitors, where brands start to pop up as alternatives to those, original big brands that kind of started what is brand marketing today. As they start to get more and more competitors, now these markets of products need to start slicing and dicing so that there's enough for all of us. So that each brand can start to say, hey, well, yeah, this brand, they're great at cleaning your floors, but you know what we're great at? Making your house smell good. And it's the same kind of product, but now I got to give you something different so that I can compete with this other brand that has always existed. And the more competition enters, the more we have to divide the pie up, so that either there's room for all of us, or that said actually a better way is not so much that there's room for all of us, but that there's room for all of the needs that exist. Because we didn't know that all of these needs existed. We didn't realize that, back to the floor cleaning analogy, we didn't realize when we start, I don't know what was the first brand that's called it Lysol. We didn't know that when we started Lysol, people were so into scent. We were just getting something that was going to clean the floors, right? Because everyone is dying from whatever fecal bacteria on the streets from the horses. All we were trying to do is kill bacteria, right? But now we're realizing, hey, people don't like the smell of that. Or they tend to bring flowers into their home. Or look, they're all boiling lemon and lavender to make their house smell good. Wait a minute, this is an opportunity. So it's really that we start to uncover more and more specific needs, which means we naturally begin to niche down to these areas of serving consumers. Fast forward to the 2000s, and now not only are there more specific and nuanced needs, but consumers are more vocal about those needs, significantly more vocal, right? In the 1920s, nobody was walking around saying, I need XYZ. You just bought what was there. That's what they have. Today, we're saying, no, that's not good enough. I want something else. And oh, by the way, if you're not going to give it to me, I'm going to make it, which is where the really explosion of the founder-led brand really came to be in the beginning of this century, where it's so easy for anyone to start a product. I think you mentioned a friend of yours that's starting a water brand, and how easy is it for literally anyone to start a beverage? It's one of the easiest things to start if you are interested. I would caution you against it, but if you were interested in doing so, it's so easy. I'm gonna make a lemonade, poof, and I'm gonna sell it, right? Well, now you have tripled, quadrupled, 10x the number of competitors, the needs that we are going after. The needs are becoming micro needs. Not only are they needs, but they're also occasion based. And so now we have to be even more intentional and specific about what, who, and why. And between those two, the macro and the micro, which in many ways kind of work against each other in the world today, that really sets up the stage, because particularly for folks who are not marketing or brand positioning experts, which of course there are not many of us, what we are referring back to, if you are 30 years of age or older, what you have as a reference in your mind is the world of old. I want to make an Apple. I want to make a Google. I want to make a Coca-Cola. I want to make a Tide. In your mind, you're thinking about a mega brand, but the world of mega brands is behind us, and the world of micro brands is really what's ahead of us. And that's the conflict between I'm afraid to go smaller and the world demands you to go smaller.
Damn. I'm afraid to go small, and the world demands you to go smaller.
Demands. Yeah, demands.
And that's like your quote. Like, it's like, damn. Well, tell me more about what they demand it. They're expecting it.
The consumer, yeah. Let's think of a product category. We'll stick with beverages for a bit. I do a lot of work in beverages, and let's think about.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, shout out to Juliana and Balloon Seltzer. Let's go. Balloon water.
Fantastic. Balloon seltzer. Well, let's talk about seltzer sparkling water.
Balloonwater.com. Let's go. Get yourself a multi-pack.
You need to call her up and get an affiliate link for that promo.
Oh man, I do. Damn, missed opportunity.
So if we think about sparkling water, actually water in particular, and water and soda, I should say, because really sparkling water came to be and sits at the intersection of water and soda or carbonated soft drinks. The reason that they came to be is we want to stop drinking soda. We realize these are bad for us. Get it. But I don't want to drink water because water is boring. And I don't want to drink juice and smoothies. It's too many calories. It's too much sugar. So what do we do? So this is where sparkling water really came to be. And, if we're thinking about the needs of the consumer in that space between carbonated soft drinks and water, the consumer is saying, I don't want either of these two things. One is boring, the other one is artificial and bad for me. I need to be somewhere in the middle. Even within sparkling water now, the more the consumer gets educated, the more the market gets educated, the more we start to find new pockets of needs. So now I've got sparkling water, and at the beginning of this, we were talking about my beverage. I'm drinking Spindrift, which I love the brand. Spindrift came in fairly early in the sparkling water process and said, or market development, and said, you know what? It doesn't have enough flavor even with the bubbles. A lot of people are like, hey, bubbles will do it for me. At least I get that. That feels exciting. Other people, like myself, are saying that's not enough. I actually need the flavor. So they've said, hey, let's put a little bit of juice into the sparkling water. We actually see people doing this. I actually was one of the people who used to do that. Put a little bit of juice in my sparkling water just to give it flavor. And so Spindrift said, hey, this is an opportunity. Now that's a micro need within this sparkling water segment that I can go and exploit and explore. And they have done that really successfully. But even within sparkling water, you can find other solutions to that. Spindrift, this particular one has 12 calories. There are some consumers saying, okay, yeah, I want the flavor, I want the bubbles, but I don't want any calories. Great. That's what LaCroix is there for. That's another sub segment of,
Are they 0? I didn't know that.
yeah, they're because it's a flavored sparkling water that is
Oh.
unsweetened.
Yeah, but you gotta know French to be able to drink that, right?
Well, that's true. And you have to visit France, as a matter of fact. So these are like micro needs within a need, right? I know I want sparkling water, but I have different ways that I might want them, and it even depends when I want it. So Kathy has her Spindrift afternoon. This sort of lunchtime is the right time for me, but other folks like their sparkling water in the evening. So they might want one that tastes more like a mojito. And so it has a mint
Mm.
and lime flavor, and it's more about that evening occasion. And so this is what I mentioned earlier, the kind of overlap between what I need and the occasion itself adds yet another dimension. So, yes, back to your question, the demand from the consumer is I want a solution in this moment in time for the very specific thing I need. And just launching a sparkling water that's just a sparkling water because it just is what it is isn't enough. I need to know why I want that one and when do I want that one that would be better than the other options on the table.
Okay, so talk to me about balloonwater.com. It says sparkling water with personality. Does she need to go deeper? Does she need to, like, niche down and not just be tasty?
I'll pull it up right now. Well, I'm happy to work with her and help her with her business. And I try very hard not to give, broad or specific, I should say, commentary on a brand, especially since she hasn't given us permission.
That's true. That's true. There's, like, first look, surprise.
First look surprise. I think, my first thought of just looking at sparkling water with personality is the challenge of choosing the right words. The difficulty of choosing the right words when you aren't trying to identify that very specific audience is I need to know what their choice of words are. So my first question to her would be, is that her assessment of the brand, or has she brought this in front of consumers and consumers said, oh, you know what I love about this? It's kind of like it has a personality because all of these other brands I'm looking at, they don't fit my style. And I look for something more like lifestyle. Is that what they've said to her? And maybe they have. I like that further down, she's talking about aficionados. So when you come up with a word like that, it usually means it's connected to some um, insight, whether it's her intuition or she's researched it. That to me sounds like she's going after people who love sparkling things. Period. Like there are folks who like love bubbles in everything they drink. In which case you got to lean hard into the bubbles. I don't know if it follows through. Like I don't know that there is a connection back to the fizziness. But at least it sounds like she has a starting point. So I definitely think there's places here that we could talk about how to tighten it up and make it stronger. But there are clues that she's heading down, at least in a direction that she's intuiting is the right niche for her.
Almost like calling that out. Getting specific, and
Yeah,
obviously it takes you work and you work together and you really put some time into it. But yeah, I even as you sort of open that door for me in my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, what is that thing? And even for my own business, I think, oh man, I got to declare who am I working with? Not just like, oh, you want a podcast? Yeah, bring it. I'll do any kind of podcast you want. It's like, no, actually, there are certain podcasts we just absolutely crush, and we also like working with those people too, and I gotta start declaring that, and
exactly. And it probably feels uncomfortable to think about that because it means in your mind, that means fewer podcasts. That means fewer people. But that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? To do fewer, bigger, better is always the right path rather than getting a lot of something that isn't quite right. Once you start to figure out, hey, this is the right kind of person for the kind of podcast I would like to help them build, well, now your value goes up. You get smarter about that person. You know the kind of things they're looking for. You can customize your offer to them and their specific needs. And you can start to very quickly see where value add comes in. So if we're talking about Balloon and Juliana and her products, let's say she does go down the path of this is for people who absolutely love bubbles. I can imagine an innovation path that would say, we're going to have a sort of assortment of bubble levels, right? There's going to be an assortment of products. We're going to create a platform that's all about like super hard bubbles. People like to joke about going to McDonald's or I think AMC movie theaters has those Coca-Cola machines where you can like pick. There's a name to that.
Oh,
The unit that they
I
have.
got one of those things too. It's like you make soda at home, like a Soda Stream or something too.
Yeah, yes, but this is at their location.
At the movie theater. Oh, that's cool.
Yes, where like you basically can make your own soda because it's a buttons you press and I'm gonna mix grape with cherry or whatever. What I have heard from folks that use that is that the carbonation in that, and particularly the Sprite carbonation at McDonald's, I've heard, is very intense, like really, really bubbly. And people gravitate towards that because the ones who do absolutely love bubbles. So I can imagine Juliana saying, hey, I'm going to launch a side line, an extension of my brand. It's all about hard bubbles. And along with the hard bubbles, I'm going to go with hard flavors too, because that person is looking for intensity in their mouth. So maybe it's going to be hard bubbles and chili lime flavored, right? So it feels powerful. And that's how you start to think about not how do I broaden horizontally, but really how do I broaden vertically? How do I deliver more to the same person in a way that makes them happy? That is the best way to grow a business particularly when you're just starting out and probably well into the middle of the curve, right? Before you get into the maturity stage of the brand. That is a great way to lift up over into that curve, is saying, I'm going to double down on this audience. So that's how I imagine even for you, right? Who is the ideal audience or target podcast guest for this podcast? And what else do they need that I could offer them beyond the podcast that helps to start to expand my business instead of going after new audiences, right? Or new guest hosts. Guest host. I put myself in your shoes already. I didn't mean to say guest host, but if you need that, I'm here.
Well, no, you're right. The show's yours. I'm out of here, guys. I'm out.
Thank you.
No. So we launch podcasts for businesses, but there's different shapes and sizes of businesses, right? And
right.
and so we've definitely fallen in the trap where I'm like, hey, I want to get to 100 podcasts, but maybe I'd rather get to 50, but super narrow, the Hard Bubbles podcast.
Hard Bubbles podcast, exactly.
Juliana, I'm gonna launch you the Hard Bubbles podcast if that's the way you want to go. But it's like pop rocks in the mouth, like let's go.
Exactly. Right. And who wants that? And really, even right now, intuitively, we can say this is probably a small audience, but so what? Imagine a very small, highly loyal audience of consumers who they're just on subscription and they're killing these hard bubbles. I will take that business. That sounds great.
The best thing that could happen is somebody goes, oh man, too many bubbles, right? And they get that on video and that just becomes your ad campaign.
That's right. And the folks who recognize that, they're like, this sucker, he can't handle his bubbles, but I can handle my bubbles. I would love to have some bubbles.
Right. You can't handle those bubbles. It's not for you.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Right. The power of niching down and knowing who your audience is. Yeah.
So I can easily armchair do this for Juliana, but the idea of doing it for myself scares me, right? So do you have to, when you're being the clarity wizard, walking around in your robes and making magic happen, do you have to be like part-time counselor as well to like tell people not only is it going to be okay, but it's going to be better?
That's so interesting you asked that. Yes, in many ways, I've had people call me a brand therapist, a brand doula. It really depends on the type of therapy that I'm doing. depends on the brand. You know, on the small end side, it's typically a founder, the CEO, owner. Mid-size and larger brands, these people are a little bit more detached from the brand, so there's not as much of an emotional, not connection, but it's almost like emotional chains that prevent you from moving past it. What they
Right.
have
Oh, yeah.
that requires the therapy is more about building that confidence. Because ultimately, these folks are really there for their career, right? Like, yes, I care about the brand. I want to do right by this, but this is also my job. This is my career. I want to be successful. I want to show that I'm doing great work. I want to continue my progression. And so the emotion there is about you feeling confident that you've made the right choices. And the only way you know you've made the right choices is by asking the right questions. And that's really where all the work comes in is, are we asking the right questions? Questions like, is this the exact audience for this? And the way you know is by saying, the person that I'm looking for is the one that I have to say the absolute least to about my brand before they are ready to give me their money. So my
Oh,
ideal
love
audience,
that.
my ideal target is somebody who they're gonna see an ad on Instagram. Immediately they're gonna click. They don't need to be retargeted. They don't need multiple views of this. They're gonna see it and they're immediately gonna click because you told them the right thing and you served it to them at the right time. They're gonna head to your website. They're gonna quickly look through and immediately put something in the shopping cart. And they're gonna go right to the shopping cart and press buy. No coupon code, no online Googling, is this thing good or not? Everything you've said to them resonates immediately. They feel excited about what you're offering, and boom, they buy right away. When you find a person who does that, that is your ideal audience. That's exactly who you're looking for.
Damn. What a great example. And by the way, I am a sucker on Instagram for they just got my number, right? Shout out to Dr. Bonnie Wilder. She is like a running coach, runner strength program. I saw that thing and I was like, I need your help. My feet hurt. And so click through and she's brilliant. Oh my gosh, and she didn't have to say she said some great stuff, and she actually on a call, she, like, looked at my feet and, like or watched me she's like, "Oh, you need this, this, and this." Oh my god. So she's like that's her wizardry, right? But, like, to your point, yeah, I'm like, "I'm in. Let's go." It's just more about, like, how much do I have to how much is this? And,
Right. And you probably spent time like internalizing some of her content, not because you needed to be convinced, but because it was so relevant to you.
yeah,
You're like, oh, oh my God, I didn't even know this. This is so great. She's so smart. I want all of this information. And oh, yeah, by the way, I'm going to pay you. Please help me because you obviously know what you're doing. Yeah. That's who she wants.
let's go. My kids need this, my wife need everybody. We all need it. Let's go.
Yeah. This is what you're looking for. Right. And if there's only 10 of you out there, there's a decision to be made. Either those 10 people are worth it and I will make the goals I have. If your goal is I need $300,000 a year just to live. That's all I'm trying to do here. Great. I can survive off of 10 people. Or you discover, look, I want to build something that eventually will be Fortune 500 company. Okay, I can't do it off of 10 people. I've got to go back and rethink my strategy and even rethink how I'm positioning it. So she might be offering this to you and you are someone who's apparently suffering with trouble with your feet and she helps folks who are runners, but she can do the same thing and offer it to, I don't know, elite athletes. She can go to Olympic athletes and offer them a similar service. And that is strategic choice. Where is the market the greatest for my goal without having to water down my audience or my message? So if you're niching down and you're like, oh my God, it's not enough, the size of prize isn't there, that's not a problem of you trying to broaden. That's a problem of you just have the wrong audience. We got to find another audience that is better than the one you've identified.
I know she works with, like, she did a lot of cross country. So in my mind, by the way, it's so much easier doing this for other people than it is for myself. It's like, "Hey, I only work with cross country high school runners. That's it." Right? But there's quite a few of them across America, so I think you're probably good, but maybe the dollar amount's not as high, but maybe it is. I don't know, but that's where you ask the questions. But yeah, people, they see it, they go, "Yeah, I want that."
Yeah, that's actually a great. Well, first of all, I agree with you. I also can't do it for myself. I was at a sales training a few weeks ago and talking to some of my entrepreneur consultant peers, and we were having that conversation. The thing that we do for others is very difficult to do for ourselves, because the power in having an external party do this with you is that they're objective. I have no emotion connected to Balloon. I don't even know Juliana. Like, there's no reason for me to be swayed by emotion or subjective information, because I'm not connected to it. That's why it's so hard for us.
Yeah, right. You didn't like labor over the name and the branding and the getting everything just right. You're ready to burn it if there's something better, and no big deal. No lost leader or what, or like the sunk cost, right? You don't have that sunk cost of your baby. Yep.
It doesn't matter to me at all. I'm easily can take this and rework it and make it better without concern. The other point that you brought up is when you're giving the example of high school CrossFitters, is that there is a really important decision to be made about an audience based on what they can afford. There are way too many businesses, too many brands today that their target audience, quote unquote, Gen Z. We're going after Gen Z in a broad way.
That sounds scary. This is definitely the Halloween episode.
You should be afraid. You should be like under your covers, hoping there's no scary monsters.
With a flashlight.
Because Gen Z, this is what I refer to our throwaway words when you're developing who your ideal audience is, and you say things like moms who work, college kids, men who like to play basketball. Like, what does that mean? It means literally nothing. It doesn't tell you anything about the kind of person they are or what they're looking for, what they could afford, what they prioritize. Identifying your ideal audience is about understanding things about them personally that would influence how you talk to them, what you offer them, and why they would care about that. It's not enough to just say, well, people who are thirsty are my audience. That doesn't make that has no value to you in strategic choice making.
Tell me more. What is that what do I need to learn about them that helps me talk differently about them?
Yeah. So let's use the example of the woman that you recently hired and going after CrossFit high schoolers versus, let's say, Olympians, as I talked about.
Or hey, CEOs who need to get their run game back on.
That is an excellent descriptor.
Bonnie, don't go to high schoolers. I still need your help, right? Don't listen to that.
Listen, you just landed on what is the start of a high quality audience descriptor. If I'm going to say I have a business, I have a brand, and I'm going to go after CEOs who want to get their run game on. First of all, the consumer is the best person to tell you who they are, as you just did, Casey. So what was the woman's name?
Bonnie. Dr. Bonnie Wilder.
So Dr. Bonnie needs to hear this and know that there is an audience that is of CEOs who want to get their run game on that she needs to go learn more about and see if that's a great audience for her to double down on. Because in that phrase, what you told me that isn't throwaway is, number one, they're CEOs. These are not, I didn't say, you didn't say busy businessmen. You didn't say men over the age of 45 who have a graduate degree. You said CEOs. And that's a very specific kind of a job with a very specific kind of demand state and a mindset that is different than all of the other things we talked about. That's super specific. And getting their run game on, that doesn't mean you want to learn how to run. It doesn't mean that you want to run a marathon. Or maybe you do, but that's not what it means. It means that what I hear in that phrase is you have a passion for running that you have lost, probably because you're a CEO and you don't have time to do that. And you want to bring that passion back into your life in some way that perhaps you don't. What I would want to learn more about that is, why don't you have your run game up now? And that why is the starting point for her, the problem to solve.
Yeah, the answer is I prioritize my company over my health, right? So then her messaging goes like, "Hey, have you prioritized your company over putting your running shoes on? Come on."
Yes, that's right. Another way that could come to life, back to your question about like, what does that really mean? And how do you like divide how do you split all these little hairs, right? One way that it comes up is I let my life take over and now my passions are gone. That's kind of what you were saying. Another one is, I feel overwhelmed and I need something that is mind, body, spirit to help me get back on track. That's a different direction, a different approach. Another one may be my company and my friends are challenging me to do this run and I'm not ready for it. I feel completely off, but goodness, the whole company's signing up for this. I don't know what to do, right? So that's really about like external pressures are forcing me into a situation that I feel uncomfortable. Help me prepare for that. Those are three very different things that you could be looking for and three different ways for me to talk to you about it. That's where it matters that I think if I make this the broadest, if I take Casey's at the center of these concentric circles, the broadest of that is adult males who want to run, throwaway words. I can come in closer and give you age demographics. Adult males between 45 and 65 who want to run.
You know, I'm not 45 yet, so this is going south, this conversation.
I mean, other men.
I'm a young man
You're 30, 32, something like that.
with a deep voice.
So we can go closer. We can get even tighter, right? Men who are businessmen with advanced degrees who love running out in the streets versus marathons. And you can keep going down tighter and tighter until we get to there's Casey, CEOs who need to get their run game back. And that is really what niching down is about, is going down all the way to the center of that circle. Here's the magic of this that I absolutely love about targeting is, yes, you're uncomfortable. I don't want to narrow down because I'm worried I'm not going to have what I need. Once you figure out how to market just to Casey and tell him exactly what he wants to know in exactly the right way, the people in those other concentric circles, they will show up when the time is right. So for those other people, say the broadest audience, which is adults who run, there will be times where they're also going to say, hey, I kind of need to get my run game back. Great. I just came across this brand and it's speaking to me. And it's speaking to me because it's so focused on this specific message that when I am in that occasion and in that moment, it's going to resonate for me. Is it my whole life? Am I going to be a brand advocate? No, but they will show up when the time is right. So I don't have to be afraid of that. The best example of this in market is Gatorade. I always use them as an example. Think about all of their advertising. Gatorade, the only thing they're advertising is like the Kobe Bryants of the world. These incredible athletes with all this sweat coming out of them. They're doing incredible.
It's like blue sweat too, right? They like make it a certain color, like the flavor.
The Gatorade, sweat coming out of them, and their muscles are unbelievable. I mean, how many people drinking Gatorade look like that? Literally like 0.5% of them.
Right.
Literally. The rest of us just look like us. But they've been so focused and so good at that really hardcore athlete message that what we have all learned is Gatorade means elite athletic performance. And even though all I'm going to do is go play with my pickleball with my girlfriends, if I'm going to do something athletic, I need to be in the mix of the right thing. So I'm going to pick up Gatorade. That's what I'm going to use. And so everybody has been attracted to that in all of the right times and places, including little kids at the soccer field drinking Gatorade because LeBron takes it. Like, why wouldn't I want this?
Yeah, he's not drinking water. Come on.
Who would do that? No, the best of the best. And that is ultimately where the power of niching down is, that over the long term, what you're doing is you're building a brand that stands for a specific thing, and the right people will come to you when the time is right. You just have to stick to that consistent message time after time. And in another episode, we can talk about, but how do I stay smart? Because even with time, obviously Gatorade has evolved. They've tweaked their language, their packaging, even their innovation has sort of evolved a little bit. So over time, I still need to learn and pivot slightly, but that core has remained. And so we can talk about how do you do that another time, because that's a whole hour conversation too.
Oh, seriously. Let's just let's just cancel all the meetings for today. Just like,
That's right. Keep going.
let's make this a 24-hour podcast, you know?
Let's go live.
Let's go live.
Press the live button.
Seriously, I need to do that. I don't know if Squadcast can. I'll have to check that out. But hey, but you're right. I'm literally going to run out of time chatting with you. It's so much fun. And when we have you come back, you can be the host next time.
Oh, I love that. I'll ask you questions.
But yeah, but you're the one that knows this stuff. So we'll have to figure that out.
That's true.
Yeah. But like, my next question really is like, who are you? Who are you? How do you know all these things?
How did I become a wizard?
Take me back in time, right? Little Kathy days. Did you know you're going to be an absolute badass with this stuff? Like, what's the deal?
No, that's great. No, when I was growing up, I grew up in New Jersey. My family was from the Dominican Republic. So my first 10, 12 years of life was all Spanish language TV in the home. And I used to watch commercials. It's a tri-state area. I live just outside of New York City. And I used to watch all these terrible commercials. I remember thinking back then, like, God, like, why do people do these? These commercials are horrible. Like, I only grew up having to make commercials, but I didn't even know what that meant at the time. Fast forward, went to business school and found my way at the University of Texas at Austin. That's how I made it to Texas. I live in Dallas now, and got an internship with PepsiCo at the Frito-Lay division. And that was really the first time that I got super deep into understanding kind of classic CPG training. It was really hard and really painful, and it was just a tough time because they're so demanding, and culturally it was a little bit of not of a match for me. But the learning and the baseline that I got there was really about both anchoring deeply in the consumer, but also in sales results. It is an organization that owns their entire distribution channel. You've probably seen Frito-Lay drivers putting potato chip bags up on the shelves. They own all of that. And so they know exactly how many bags of chips they sold on a minute per minute basis. And so it was anchored in data. So it was so much of that data. And that really was the start of me being, the clarity wizard, and really learning, how do I take a lot of information and kind of make sense of it, simplify things so that we're all talking in the same language. And about 11, 12 years ago, I started my consultancy, and more found my way into brand positioning projects because I love it. I love the idea of really understanding someone and giving them exactly what they want. Because ultimately, that's the job in CPG, consumer packaged goods. All we're doing is making people happy on a daily basis. You are touching at least 20 consumer packaged goods products in any given day in your life. And so the idea that I am participating in that and understanding what you need and trying to figure out how do we give that to you. People have bad ideas about marketing, but if you think about it through the lens of creating value for someone and then rewarding you with value, it's quite rewarding. And I love that about what I do. So that's how I became the clarity wizard.
What a cool way of looking at it. I think sometimes, sales gets a bad rap, but marketing too. We're the people tricking people. But I love that approach. No, we're just bringing people happiness. We're not trying to trick you. We're trying to get clear on what we are and who you are, and if we can be the ones that make you happy today.
Exactly. That's all I want to do is make people happy. I love that.
Now, I've got a hypothetical question for you if you're ready.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
All right. Well, you see, I may or may not have a time machine here in New Hampshire. So you come visit, we get some lobster, get some beer, and we go hang out in the time machine. It's in the yard, covered in a tarp, you know how things go. So we use a time machine. It's a particular kind of time machine, and you get to go back in time and meet yourself. You get to go meet yourself a couple days after, you just graduated, school's all done, and you get to go meet that Kathy. What do you tell her? What kind of things would you talk to her about?
So this funny you ask, because I have a daughter who is just started her senior year in high school and is about to embark in the world of adulthood. And I feel like I find myself in this question every day. Like I'm living this question right now and trying to figure out, like, how do I impart all of this 48-year-old knowledge into a 17-year-old brain to try to help you avoid the things that I avoided, which, by the way, is impossible. You can't really. It turns out everybody has to go through their own process. You can't really shortchange it. However, if I was gonna go back in time, I think that I would start with ask more questions. Ask more questions, because what I always knew to be true, but now I'm living it, is that the less you know, the more confident you are in what you know. It's almost like I only know a tiny bit, and because I don't know about the complexities of this, I feel great about what I know. I got this. Like, how simple is this? Like, I just got my driver's license. I know how to drive a car. Like, what more is there to this? Like, simple, right? And the reality is that the more that you learn, the more you realize that you don't know jack. You know nothing. You were so clueless. You were so dumb. Even myself, as brand positioning expert, I've been doing this over 20 years, right? Just the fact that I myself can't do it for myself because I can't separate the emotion, right? That I also get things wrong. That sometimes I may go into a project with a client with a particular thought or process, say like Juliana's. I'm going to go and chat with her, and I'm going to say, oh, you're all about bubbles. She's going to say, actually, no, that's not what I heard at all. It's XYZ.
She's like, I freaking hate bubbles. We're like, oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Had no idea, right?
Don't listen to the last 20 minutes then.
Exactly. This is where, to me, I have learned to love the power of questions. Is do not make assumptions. Actually, I do a workshop. I'm doing one right next week, actually, that is an assumptions planning workshop, where all we're doing is talking about the things we assume that need to be true in order for us to win, to be successful at whatever the initiative is. Because you're assuming it, I'm assuming it, Paul in finance is assuming something else. Jill, who's the R&D lead, she's assuming something else. All of a sudden,
Yes.
we're all on different pages. The power of questions is clarity. That is what gets you to the clarity, is really understanding something in order to be able to make a strategic choice to move forward. So if young Kathy would have known that she actually didn't know jack, she was clueless. If she had realized that, if my 17-year-old could understand that she actually doesn't know anything, I can't convince her. That's a lost cause.
I know. What is it about us,
I don't
young
know.
us? It's like, no, I got this. I pretty much know everything now.
Man, I feel so like compelled to help her understand that she doesn't, but that it just doesn't work. I think somebody else has to tell her, not her mom.
The older I get, the more I don't know.
That is exactly right. It's the more I learn, the less I know. The more I learn, the less I know. It just is what it is, because you start to realize that there's more and more to be learned. You understand the complexity of it, and that that you don't get all the details, and that everything is so much more nuanced. It's so actually a lot of what I think is missing from the political conversation too, is that there's so much assumptions about what I think I know to be true for myself, but also what I think you should know about yourself, or what I think you need, or how you are reacting to me. Like, I'm assuming all of these things. There's so much of assumptions. If we would stop with periods and make everything a question mark, where could we be? Where would we be otherwise? Questions, man. Questions.
More questions. Well, I got another one for you. Where do people connect with you? Where do you want them to go? How do they reach out?
If they have questions, they can ask me and reach out to me on LinkedIn. I see LinkedIn as our public square. I want to connect with as many people as possible. So reach out, send me a LinkedIn connection. Would love to chat with you. And so you can find me with my name, Kathy Guzmán Galloway. But you can also come and find me on our website, theclaritywizard.com/podcast. I have other podcast episodes I've been on, but also some free downloads for anybody who needs a couple of templates, work on your brand positioning, or a learning plan, which is a strategic plan to help you get smarter about your audience. You can find some of that stuff on there too.
Yeah, and that's weak. If you really want to solve your brand problem, you reach out, you hire this lady right now, and she will help you burst that balloon.
I would love that. Yes, please.
Damn, so good. Hey, Kathy, thank you so much for coming on here. Sometimes I like to joke with my guests, like, "Oh, look at the time warp that you just went through. We just went through an hour. We did go through an hour, but in this particular case, I was in the warp because I looked up and I was like, oh, damn, I'm gonna run out of time. Like, I was so into this. I'm learning. my brain is thinking and churning, and I can't wait to be scared. And happy Halloween, everyone. And man, what a cool time. Thank you so much for coming on here.
Thank you. It's been great chatting with you, and love your enthusiasm and your passion. You're going to go down as one of my favorite hosts.
Hell yeah.
If not the, but don't tell anyone.
I won't tell anyone.
The favorite.
Well, don't edit that out though. We'll make a promo clip out of that.
Please do. Please do.
So good. Awesome. Well, if you're listening to this and you learned something, and I freaking know you did, because I literally have 2 pages of notes over here, front and back, running out of room, writing in the margins, then share this with like one person. Somebody needs to hear this. Somebody's got that brand that needs that. You can't do it to everybody. You got to pick. You got to narrow that down. Tag somebody you love, tag a brand you love, and tell them to narrow that thing down. I don't care if it's Pepsi or it's that drink down the street or a B2B company. Tag somebody and let's get Kathy in there helping them out. With that, thank you again for being on here.
Thank you, Casey.
All right, everybody. This has been a crazy fun episode of the Hardcore Marketing Show. We will see you all next time.